Welcome to C Programming Tutorials. In today's tutorial we are going to learn about structures. How structures are defined, what they are, how they are declared in C programming and stuff like that. How the members of structures are accessed in C program. And before I start again the same old thing, I would really appreciate if you could become the fan of the Facebook page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def, or if you could subscribe to this YouTube channel, learn, or if and I would really appreciate if you could leave some comments as to whether you like or dislike, or any kind of suggestions that you might have, or any kind of topic that you might want to cover in these tutorials, either on the Facebook page or in the YouTube page for this video. I would really appreciate it. And so let's get started. The structures are, let's try to understand what this what the concept of a structure is. Let me plug in my pen here. Let's see. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so sometimes what happens is that you have to, we already learned how to declare variables like integer variable and string variables and stuff like that, but sometimes we really need to group some variables together into what we call structures. So for example, let's take the example of a student. Okay, with the student, for every student there is certain attributes or properties specific to that particular student, and they are common in each and every student. For example, we have ID of the student and name of the student, right? And say age of the student, right? So you have ID of the student, you have the name of the student, and then the age of the student. These three things are grouped together into one single structure. Okay, this is what we call structure. This is a structure. So a structure basically container or collection of variables of different type. For example, this ID would be just an integer. Okay, this name would, right? And we know how to define a string. If you haven't watched that tutorial, which was like the week tutorials in the series, you should basically it's part of the playlist that basically contains all the programming tutorials in here. And the age is basically an integer. So see how this is an integer type, it is a string type, this is integer type. These three things together make up what we call a structure. And this whole thing is basically, we can call it a student, right? So for every student there will be an ID, there will be a name, and there will be an age associated with it. So how do you represent this kind of information in a C program? So let's look at that. So the way to declare a structure is basically by using the keyword struct, like this, followed by the structure name, and then the braces, and then the variable declarations. Okay, and there will be there are going to be multiple of those. Okay, depending upon how many variables you want to declare in your structure, and then followed by braces and then semicolon. Okay, this whole thing basically ends up in declaring a structure. So in this particular example, how are we going to declare this structure? So struct and then the name of the structure. Let's call it, we wanted to declare a student structure, so let's call it a student. You can just name it whatever you want. Okay, a student. And then what kind of members it will have? These are called members. Okay, so it will have an ID and it will have the string name to hold the name of the student, So how do you write that? This is how we declare a string. That it's an array of characters, and if we expect that the name would be like 20 characters long maximum, then we declare it as 21 characters wide. Why? Because we want to keep one character for the null termination, the end of a string character, the 0 that it stores at the end of every string, right? And then integer age. Okay, there we go. So this declares this structure, the same structure that I just drew before this. And then after that, this just declares the structure. It doesn't declare any variables for this structure. It doesn't declare this variable ID. It doesn't declare this name string. It doesn't declare age. So if I declare an ID here, now this declares a variable ID. It just gives a template, kind of. It just gives a template of how the structure would look like if it is, if a variable is created with this name. So how do we create the variable? Just like, normally we create the variable like, writing the type followed by the variable name, right? That's how we declare a variable. Okay, the same thing here. For example, we declare int x. Int is the type, x is the variable name, right? So the same thing here. This structure name becomes like a type that you defined yourself. Int was a predefined type. Character was a predefined type. Float is a predefined type. But this is something that you declared yourself. So this is your new type. Struct student. Okay, followed by this name of the variable. So this will create one student structure. Okay, so let's call it some name, st1, for example. So this whole thing is the type, and then this is the variable name or the structure name. Okay, so let's call it variable name, because the structure name would be this student here. Okay, so this basically declares the student st1. So now our picture is something like this. There is a structure, st1. Okay, and inside that structure there are 3 members. Okay, one is the ID, the other one is the name, and the third one is the age. Okay, so I could say ID 1324 with name, I don't know, Suhail. Okay, and age 10. I'm not 10 years old, but for example. Okay, so this will constitute the information about one student. And how do we do that in the C program? This is how we do it. Okay, so we already have the variable name st1. This is how you access the elements or the members inside this structure. st1 dot id is equal to 1234. Okay, st1 dot name is equal to Suhail. Do you think you can do that? No, because when we are learning about strings, I told you that you cannot do that. When you have to assign a string to another string, you want to assign this string to another string, what do? You do this. Okay, you use the function strcpy, string copy. This will do it. And then st1 dot age is 10. So this will basically fill up that structure with, this will fill up the structures with all the data that we just described. So we will continue with this tutorial in the next video. The time is up, so please rate this video to 5 stars if you liked it, and don't forget to leave the comments. Thank you so much.